Dear Venerable Sister, dear Dhamma friends, we are going to start the second Dhamma sermon of this Kalalgoda July English Medium Retreat. May you give your consent by saying Sadhu Sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Yato chako aham bhikkave ime panchupadana khande chatu parivattang yatha bhutang abbanyasing ataham bhikkave sadevake loke samarake sabbrahmake sassamana brahmaniya pajaya sadeva manussaya anuttarang samma sambodhing abhisambuddhoti paccanyasingti. Dear Venerable Sister, Dhamma friends, so as you know, we started a particular topic that is related to perceptions, which is coming under the section of Upadana Parivatta Sutta. So Upadana Parivatta Sutta is an interesting subject where Buddha discuss 4 phases of the 5 aggregates. And the kind of a statement, kind of a declaration that he makes is a kind of a lion's roar, as we discussed yesterday. So he mentioned before he became having thorough understanding about the 4 phases of 5 aggregates, he didn't declare himself as the Samma Sambuddha. Among the crowd consisting of humans, devas, maras, brahmas, everyone. Among that huge crowd, that large gathering, he didn't declare himself as the Samma Sambuddha unless he has the thorough, direct knowledge about the 4 phases of 5 aggregates. So, on top of that, we need to understand 5 aggregates, and even when we know 5 aggregates, per each aggregate, Buddha talks about 4 phases. So, you can see the gravity in that statement. So, it is not mere theoretical understanding at all. So, most of us may know what are the 5 clinging aggregates, Panchupadana Khanda, but Buddha is emphasizing something more than that. So, Katang Chatu Parivattang. So he is asking, what is this 4 phases in the 5 aggregates? For each aggregate, there are 4 phases. So we started talking about the perceptions aggregate, since we already discussed about the form aggregate and the feelings aggregate in the last couple of months. Now yesterday we started about the perceptions aggregate. So with respect to perceptions aggregate, this is how it's mentioned. Sanyang abbanyasing, sanya samudayang abbanyasing, sanya nirodhang abbanyasing, sanya nirodhagamini patipadang abbanyasing. So sanyang abbanyasing. So that means the perceptions, various signs, marks. As we discussed yesterday, various signs we are taking through the eye. That is the form-related signs. Various signs that we are taking through the ears, that means various signs pertaining to the sounds. Then various signs with respect to the odors, various signs with respect to the tongue, various signs with respect to the body, and various signs with respect to the mind. So the huge category we are talking here, even though we can tell it within a couple of minutes. So it's a vast subject in a way. So we are living in a completely a sensible world. We are gathering so much of information using our sense faculties, and what actually we are gathering is these different signs. Actually our eye can only see the color and the shape. Ear can only sense the different kind of audible range, kind of an intensity, kind of a frequency. And nose is also similar. Tongue is also similar. The body is also similar. So they are in a way, even though they are quite sensitive objects, sensitive sensors we can say, but still their capacities are very limited. So you know that we discussed yesterday how vast it is also. But still we need to understand, so our visible capacity is a very limited capacity. Our audible range is a very limited range. That there are various sounds still available that we can't hear. but maybe dogs, maybe rats or whatever the other animals still can recognize, but human beings can't. Similarly, our visible range, that is also very limited. Science get to know that. In the class we learn about VIBGYOR, what is the range in nanometers or whatever, so we talked about it. But other than that, there are still various other rays available, maybe X-rays, infrared, all these things are available, but we can't see, but they are there. So likewise, even though we as human beings, our perceptions, all that visible capacity, audible capacity, all these things are available, but still we perceive only a fraction, only a limited range. But that also now Buddha say, you need to directly know them as signs, them as perceptions. Not like trapped in it, immediately get trapped in it. Now you need to step back and see directly, oh, this is a sign. This is a visible sign. This is an order. This is a taste. Okay, this is a tangible sensation. So likewise, we have to develop certain amount of capacity. So one sense we have to be mindful. On the other hand, we have to slow down ourselves without immediately jump into various thoughts and proliferation. We have to slow down and see, okay, this is a sign. This is something happening in the mind. This is a mental image. This is a fraction of a sound. This is a fraction of a sight. So likewise, we are now looking them at in a different angle. We are trying to look at them objectively rather than immediately subjectively getting to attach and entangle with it. Now we have to develop certain skill to recognize perceptions or signs, marks as signs and marks. That is one thing. Sanyang abhanyasing. So that is also, first of all, we may be knowing that through theoretical understanding, but then when we are using our eye faculty, ear faculty, nose faculty, tongue faculty, body faculty and the mind faculty, we should try in a way to understand they as mere perceptions or mere signs. And then Buddha mentions sanya samudayang abhanyasing. So the cause of the perception, cause of the sanya, cause of the sign, that also we need to directly know. Not merely through the book, rather directly know. So what is the cause of the perception? That is the contact. So contact is the cause for perception. Passa samudaya, sanya samudayo. So contact is the one causing perceptions. So when we see, when eye and the form comes in line in that visible range, then our attention has to be drawn there, then the proper contact happens, then the perception can happen. So likewise, contact plays a prominent role in that whole process. Then sanya nirodhang abhanyasing. So this, how to seize these different perceptions, how they are overcoming happens. So how we can avoid any kind of an entanglement, any kind of successive processes causing due to a lot of misunderstandings. How we can stop that? How we can know properly, allowing these different perceptions, different signs and all these things to fade away without getting trapped in it. So that also we need to know directly. And the last one is sanya nirodhagamini patipadang abhanyasing. So the path leading to the cessation of all these perceptions, that also has to be known. So what is that path? Noble Eightfold Path. Arashtanga Marga, Noble Eightfold Path. So you can see, so Buddha's understanding with respect to perceptions also is a vast understanding. Now he has vast understanding with respect to forms, some similar 4 categories. Then with respect to feelings, the same similar aspects, 4 similar aspects. Then now we are talking about the perceptions, that broader 4 aspects. And then we can talk future about the formation, sankhara, some similar 4 aspects. And in the consciousness also, some similar 4 aspects. It's a kind of a huge area. So then only he is declaring, yes, I am a Samma Sambuddha. So you can see, and again, as I said yesterday, these are not a very limited area. When we talk about the physical form aggregate, it's a vast area. We started with very limited bodily sensations, bodily, say, element characteristics. That is how we start with. But then we can grow it, we can enhance it to the whole universe. Whatever physical comes under this kind of understanding. It doesn't mean that we need to know everything. We don't need to be a Samma Sambuddha. But Samma Sambuddha, he declares only he know everything in all these respects. That's how he is declaring himself as the Samma Sambuddha. Not mere declaration, but thoroughly, directly knowing everything to its fullest capacity. Now, yesterday we discussed certain information about these different perceptions, and now today we can discuss the path actually. How are we going to overcome the entanglement? So as we discussed yesterday, say when someone is practicing Anapanasati, for example, when breathing becomes calm, relaxed, maybe very subtle, there may be a possibility that various perceptions can arise in the mind, say as in the form of various visions, illusions, or various sounds. So that is also possible. That is something we get trapped, we get confused. And sometimes we give value to that, and we attribute a person to that, and then we completely mislead ourselves in the path. We get completely confused. On that occasion, actually, we need to have thorough understanding. Rather than giving any value to this, rather than giving any name to it or emphasis to it, so they are mere perceptions. They are mere mind-made objects. They are mere mind-made sounds. So likewise, so we have to keep sanya at their proper place. Marichika upama sanya. So Buddha warns us in a way. So we need to know perceptions as a mirage. Even though they appear like real, they are not real. They appear like very real, but they are not real. So we have to have that knowledge, kind of a warning that Buddha makes while we meditate. So these kind of hallucinations, these kind of visualizations can happen, but at that moment we need to have some understanding. I should not give much prominence to that. Rather, I have to come back to the body. I have to recognize perceptions as perceptions. Now, there's an interesting discussion about what is the result of perception. What is the, say, how we can consider perceptions and what leads to various perceptions. So this is something interesting, and it is discussed in the Nibbedika Sutta of Anguttara Nikaya. Katamocha bhikkhave sanyanang vipako. So what is the vipaka of sanya? What is the result of taking all these different signs? Have you ever thought? So we are taking various signs. Through the eye we take various signs, means color and the shape. Through the ear we take various sounds, that's different, say, frequencies and all these things. So ultimately, what is the result? So Buddha mentioned like this: Vohara vepakkaham bhikkhave sanyang vadami. Yata yatanang sanjanati tata tata voharati. Evang sanyi ahosinti. So you can see how Buddha gradually explains what has happened in a way. Vohara vepakkaham bhikkhave sanyang vadami. Perceptions result in expression. So when you perceive something, when you recognize something, you want to tell that to someone. Say you saw something while you are coming, a tragic incident. Now you won't have a kind of a strong desire, I need to express that. I want to tell it to someone. I need to go to the police and report it. I need to call my friend and inform that there's a significant incident going on. Say you are calling 119 and calling. Because you want to tell it. You can't simply keep it on yourself. You know to express it. So once you see something, once you hear something, whenever you are using your faculties, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, to get that information, you can't keep it to yourself, you need to express it with others. But how are we going to express it? Now we need a way of expression, right? We need to have some way of communication. Now we need to develop kind of a grammar, various letters, various words, sentences, grammar, languages. Now only I can express properly what I have perceived. So you can see, we can't merely stop at the perception level, we want to express it. Now we are talking, now we are writing, now we are expressing in many different ways, maybe PowerPoint presentation, maybe in the form of, say, other whatever statues or whatever it is. So whatever you are perceiving, now you need to express it. You need to express it, you need to explain it to the other person, so that other person also may get various other expressions. So when such kind of a knowledge happens or perception happens, so we are tempted to tell it, we are tempted to express it. As a result of that, all these different vohara, different, say, conventions, different ways of expressions, maybe through the bodily expressions, through the language, that the verbal expressions, or through writing you are expressing. So all these different mechanisms are there in the world so that we can express our perception to the others, transmit our perception to the others. Evaṁ saññī ahosinti. I was percipient of such and such a way, so now I am capable of expressing through a language. So this is how these things have built up. But when they are built up, so we get trapped in it. So that's the problem. So we take all these things are to be real. So now I have a language. So this language is the best language. So this is the most ancient language. So the other languages are, the recent languages. So I should give more marks to this language. Now I have certain biases with respect to the way I am expressing, the means I am using to express. Now I have various kind of biases to my expression, my way of expression. So the tools that I am using to express, now I am giving some additional value. Now I get trapped in it. Now I have some bias in it, kind of favorism. Now in a kind of a trouble. But in the fundamental level, what we had was a kind of a way of expression. I just want to express my perception. But we forget all that and we get trapped in the products. What we are using to express now become kind of something real. And we grasp that as something real. And we expect that to be permanent. Say the Sinhala language has to be a permanent thing. You can't change it. You can't make any change. The word has to be like this. The syllables has to be like this. Vowels has to be like this. Say English. Okay, these are the letters. You can't add another letter to English. So if you add, then I am going to protest. So whatever the way, so we are having all different kinds of fixations onto this kind of thing. But ultimately, if you look at the very basics, so this is a way that we as human beings build up to express our views, express our perceptions to the other human beings. Now, understanding that also gives us some kind of a balanced view about these different perceptions. Because now we are living in a huge perceived world. So various expressions are there, various languages are there, enormous number of words are there, colors are there, signs are there, names are there, labels are there. One person can't perceive that much even. You can't remember even. How many subjects are there in the world? How many names are there in the world? How many road names are there in the world? You can't even count. So that much that human have created. But if you ask, maybe when crow is flying, do he know the path that the different, now I am going through the Kalalgoda and assume that there's a bird flying on the sky. Do he know that he is now flying in Kalalgoda? So they don't have that kind of a perception, right? Those names and all these things, so that we are using. but it's not relevant to them, not necessary for them. They have their own way of communication and they may have their own way of senses. According to that, they may fly. But we need all this, then only we can use the Google map. All these things are there. Now, how are we going to overcome all the trouble that we are getting through the perceptions? And the troubles in the sense, so one thing is that when we are perceiving, we can't perceive the realistic or real true nature. Instead, we have kind of a coloring into the picture. Say, for example, say a young girl is being looked by different point of view by different people. Say, if young girl being seen by a young boy, he may look in one way. That same young girl looked by another, say, young woman, she may look by another way. Same young girl being looked by or seen by maybe a mature, older person, he may look that same young girl in a different way. But the same young girl, why? Why can't all of them have the same feeling, same perception, same views? Because they are conditioning different kinds of, say, raga, dosa, moha, lust, hatred, delusion, operating in their minds are quite different. Then who decides what are the signs that I want to give prominence? What are the signs I am interested? Who decides? So individuals have their own lust, hatred, delusion, raga, dosa, moha. So they are the determining factors. So when you are looking at someone, so what are the features you are interested of? If I ask the same question from another person, what are the things that you are interested of when you are looking at someone? So different individuals have their own different priorities. So accordingly, they take these different information. So you can see, it is not that I, you mean EYE, I, the visible I. It is not the one determining that. It is not the ear determines that. It is not the nose, it is not the tongue, it is not the body. Rather, the determining factor is raga, dosa, moha. Rago ko also nimitta karano, doso nimitta karano, moho nimitta karano. This is a very interesting, very strong statement made by Venerable Sariputta in the Mahavedalla Sutta. So he mentioned, so in order to take signs, raga, lust is the determining factor. It is the one responsible for what you are taking as the signs. Dosa is the determining factor. Hatred is the one telling you, okay, these are the factors you need to look into. Moha is the determining factor, crucial factor. Delusion is deciding, telling you, okay, these are the marks, these are the signs you need to look into. So on the other hand, that means, so even though we are using all these different apparatus, sensors, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, but there's a significant influence coming from our mentality, raga, dosa, moha, the defilements. Now, when we do Vipassana, so we are in a way addressing these raga, dosa, moha. So slowly we are developing certain amount of understanding so that our perception becomes somewhat corrected. Not 100% maybe, but somewhat corrected. So one wrong perception is that whenever we are gathering these signs, marks, perceptions, we have the notion of permanence. So this is permanent. This clock appear permanent. So I can take a still picture. Now it is 4:20. Its color is this. Its shape is this. Numerals are like this. So I can take a still picture because it is permanent. But if it is shaky, then it's very difficult to take the permanent picture. So I am having kind of a permanence as a perception. And again, I might have kind of a satisfaction by looking at it. If it is a very beautiful picture, I'm expecting kind of a satisfaction through the seeing. And again, I think it belongs to me. I have full control over it. So that means anicce nicca sanya. dukke sukha sanya, anatte atta sanya. So now we are putting another angle to the picture. So whenever we are gathering this information, apart from information, now I am adding my own wrong perception. That is, these are permanent, these are satisfiable, satisfactory, these are happy, and these are in a way with my control, or they are myself, they are mine. Kind of a self view is added to the picture. So things become fully complicated now. Raga dosa moha come into the picture. My eyes and ears, all these things have very limited capacity. And again I am adding my wrong views. These are permanent, these are satisfiable, these are self, all this stuff. So with that only now I get the information. Now I am operating within my mind. So how about my thinking? Is it correct now? At the very perception level, at the very sensory level, it is wrong. I did lot of manipulations, lot of conditioning, lot of coloring. With that wrong data, colored data, conditioned data, now I have some information. Now based upon that I am thinking. How about the conclusion? Conclusion also going to be wrong. So sanya vipallasa, chitta vipallasa, ditti vipallasa. So Buddha mentioned there are distortions now. Distortions happen at the sanya level, at the perception level. Distortions happen at the thinking level. Distortions happen at the conclusions level, the view level. Utter mess now. So how we are operating is based upon all these distortions. We have distorted views, distorted perceptions, distorted knowledge, distorted conclusions. Now, so this is what actually we need to understand the depth. So how we are operating, what has happened to us, so how we are confused, how we have entangled into this whole samsara. So that's why in a way the path has to be very critical, has to be very careful, and it is going through a very systematic approach so that all these entanglement has to be reduced, overcome, so that we get the proper understanding. Instead of seeing that impermanent thing as permanent, now we need to look at the opposite, impermanent things as impermanent. Instead of thinking unsatisfactory things as satisfactory, we need to see unsatisfactory things as, or suffering things as suffering. And without thinking non-self as self, we need to understand non-self as non-self. So likewise, kind of a correction has to happen in our perception. Accordingly, the correction has to happen in our thinking. Accordingly, a correction has to happen in our conclusions, proper views. So that's why, in a way, it is fairly deeper how Buddha is presenting. So the Noble Eightfold Path, in that sense, giving us this kind of a very thorough correction to our view. That's how the Samma Ditti comes as a very thorough understanding about as the things as they truly are. Say, for example, you are developing some amount of concentration, you have developed certain amount of mindfulness, and that developed mindfulness, concentrated mind, now you are keeping attention for a long time, say to a physical phenomena, and now you are seeing how it is changing, how it is evolving, how it is behaving. For a longer time, you can't get a thorough understanding which is powerful enough to change your wrong perception immediately. It may take time. Because we start as a person, I am so and so, now I am at here, I am practicing. So this is the kind of a person-based perception we have, and using which I am doing the practice. So that is how we start. But as we continue this thorough investigation, so that investigation is fairly responsible to remove or weaken all these wrong perceptions. Say, I had a perception of permanence, so that has to be corrected now by seeing things as they truly are. It is not that I am influencing myself to change. Probably you can believe the Buddha, you can simply say, yes, Buddha has mentioned it is impermanent, it may be true, because he never lie and I respect him. Definitely it may be true, so things are impermanent. Even though I perceive it as permanent, it should be impermanent. That's good. I mean, that's the faith. That's also to some extent correct. And we think everything is giving us satisfaction, but Buddha has mentioned they are not giving much satisfaction. They are impermanent. As a result of that, it may produce suffering. May be true. To some extent, you can trust him. And I perceive things as myself, and it has a personality, a person, soul, etc., etc. But Buddha say no, they are not substantial. Nothing belongs to you. Everything is changing. So you can't find a self, you can't find a soul, you can't find an essence. May be true. You are trusting. So that is to some extent true, but not yet the direct knowledge. So the word here, Buddha mentioned Sanya Abhanyasing. Abhanyasing means the direct knowledge, not just mere belief, not just mere theoretical understanding, but direct knowledge. So that direct knowledge, experiential knowledge, is the most important thing here Buddha highlights. So that is where we need to develop that skill to have that direct knowledge. So we need to have a very kind of a clarity in the mind, some mindfulness, calmness, focused attention, and thorough investigation for a longer time, so that that direct knowledge under your very nose helpful to have that direct understanding. It is not that you are simply believing someone's information. It is not that you are simply believing what Buddha mentioned. Rather, now you are doing your own experiment. You are doing your own Parivassana. So in a Kayanupassana, say for example, so you have developed your apparatus. You have the mindfulness, you have the concentration, you can maintain that for a long time. Various phenomena are arising by themselves due to other reasons, but you are observing. You are doing a kind of a unbiased observation. You are not going to change anything. You are not going to interpret anything, or you are not going to interfere anything. But you do a very careful observation, investigation. It leads to slowly the understanding. Not only that, say you are observing various feelings, how pleasurable feelings are arising, how painful feelings are arising, how equanimous feelings are arising, how they are changing, how they are arising, how they are passing away, how they are behaving. It is not that you make anything. You are only looking at them curiously, carefully. And then they have their nature to come and go, to arise and pass away. So all these characteristics are kind of common characteristics. And even the perceptions, now we can come to that. Various perceptions, if we put them at their proper place, they also have the nature to come and go. Say there's a mental image appear in your mind, assume that you recognize it as a mere perception, mere mental image, mere sign, without adding anything to it, without giving much emphasis to it. It's a mere perception. You are not constructing on top of that. That's the difficult part. You need to avoid any additions. You need to stop any multiplications. All sankharas have to be keep aside. Fabrications, manipulations, adding color, adding your own prejudices, everything as much as possible. If you can stop, then mental image appear, you recognize, oh, this is a mental image, and you are looking at it, it is going. Is it you pushing it, or is it has its own nature to go away? So it has its own nature. So that's the conditioned phenomena have their common characteristics. Whatever condition, it's a very common universal law Buddha mentioned. Tinimani bhikkave sankatani sankata lakkanani katamani tini upado panyayati vayo panyayati titassa anyatattam panyayati. Monks, to all the conditioned phenomena, there are three characteristics. What are they? You can recognize the arising, you can recognize passing away, in between change. That's it. Whatever phenomena, whatever conditioned phenomena, these three characteristics you can recognize. It's a universal law. It is not that Buddha makes anything. He recognized, he understood these are the common universal characteristics common to all conditioned phenomena. So we are trying to understand that by our direct knowledge. Now Buddha has mentioned that now we have kind of a faith in him, but that is not enough. Now you need to go your own journey. You need to know your own direct knowledge. Have your own direct knowledge. That's why Sanya Abbanyasing, Sanya Samudayang Abbanyasing, Sanya Nirodang Abbanyasing, Sanya Nirodagamini, Patipadang Abbanyasing. The term Abbanyasing emphasize direct knowledge. Now say you are doing this practice now. So slowly, you understand different perceptions, how different signs appear. Now they are going, you are not adding to it. As much as possible, you are calming down yourself. You are not interrupting the process. But they come and go. Now, what happened to the mind? Now say you are doing this. I need to add a little bit of information to explain this. So sanya, these perceptions, has a great impact on mental proliferation, conceptual proliferation. Because as I mentioned, as we perceive, I have a desire to express. I am talking now. I want to talk. I want to express. Raise your hand. I want to talk. Because I perceive something. I have a kind of an urgency to tell. Isn't it? To tell, I need to think. Thinking in one way? No. Many ways. Many different ways. I am thinking now. Full confused. Overthinking. And get others also into the picture. Storytelling. A huge meeting. Political meeting. I have a perception how to deal with the country. So please come. Today's meeting going to be the winning meeting. So we are going to attack the country or attack the government. We are starting a protest. Blah, 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 blah. On next week, we are going to build a new country. So I am gathering so much of others also into my own proliferation. So they also, put me on the pedestal, respect me. Oh, you are the boss, you are the guy, you are the, savior of the country. Please come and take the presidency. So everything. So likewise, thinking, proliferation has a great impact coming from perceptions. Sanya nidanahi papancha sankha. So Buddha mentioned, all these proliferative concepts are built up with perceptions. All the concepts, all the names, all the letters, all the words, all the sentences, all the languages are in a way concepts. Built up with very primary perceptions, very primary signs. You see color, shape, you see different frequencies or hear different frequencies, the sounds. To the nose, you get certain odors, certain, precepts. Tongue, same. Body, same. And you put things together and now you come up with a new idea. Ideation happens. You can see the beauty, right? How we are making a kottu roti. All mixed up. And now we are coming with a letter, a new language, a new construct, a new concept. So human made everything in a way, in that sense. Now, if we step back and see all these things, so how these constructions happen in the mind, how these proliferations happen in the mind, how we are adding our own preferences in the mind, how we are adding our likes and dislikes, all these things in the mind, to a sign, to a thought. And we can, feel like ashamed of what are we doing. By seeing it. Not by simply hearing, but by seeing for yourself. What the heck I am doing? Just a sign came. What a foolish fellow I am. How crazy I am. What the foolish thing I am doing? Just an image came and I am adding this, I am adding that. I am calling it as this is my son. Now I am thinking how this whole process has started. So if you look back, if you come use Yoniso Manasikara and look back, the whole thing start sort of unentangled. Instead of making a huge thing, now everything sort of fall apart, disassemble. Now you can see the little pieces. It's not a huge emotion, but a little pieces. So by seeing it, now you feel ashamed of doing it again. At least let me try to stop it. So you have a kind of an urgency now to at least to avoid it. You feel like, you are the one making a little thing as a huge thing. So we are the ones in a way making us unhappy, making us suffering. Not others make us unhappy, but we ourselves make us unhappy. We ourselves make us a lot of suffering. That for sankhara dukkha, complete responsibility is to ourselves, no one else. Among the three types of dukkha, there are three types of dukkha Buddha mentioned: dukkha dukkha, viparinama dukkha, sankhara dukkha. So dukkha dukkha is sometimes unavoidable to some extent. Say you go through a disease, you met with an accident, so it's suffering, there's a bodily pain. But even there you can limit it to the bodily pain. You don't need to add a mental pain to that. So even in the dukkha dukkha, there's a significant added pain, self-created pain, self-created suffering. So you can reduce that. But still some physical pain is still available. And the viparinama dukkha, say you expect some things to be permanent, some things to appear or behave in a certain manner, but things happen in a different manner. The viparinama has happened, change has happened, but you can't accept it. So you suffer. But the moment you accept it, moment you adjust yourself, you do a proper little alignment, yes, no problem, okay, let it happen, I can accept it. I didn't expect him to be the president, but somehow it happened. Let me accept it. Who knows, right? Did you expect him to be the president? No. He just came by something, no, but he became the president. Now I have to accept it. You don't suffer. So likewise, viparinama dukkha, so you can reduce by accepting little bit of alignment. But sankhara dukkha, fully responsible to our individuals. We do a lot of fabrications, we do a lot of manipulations, we do a lot of additions, subtractions, multiplications in our mind, and we suffer. Till we have ignorance, we do a lot of manipulations. Till we have ignorance, we do a lot of constructions, a lot of preparations, a lot of manipulations. More sankhara. Ultimately leading to suffering. The more we are wise, we stop doing that, more the mind is calm, less proliferation, less inner chatter, less suffering. Simple as that. So that means, do the wise people think too much? Are the wise people great thinkers? Interesting questions. Is the Buddha a great thinker? We can't say like that. So thinking is, as we just discussed, thinking is just a one skill. It also has to be properly thought. Properly we have to think. If we think differently, wrongly, wrong direction, we are the ones going to suffer, and others are also going to suffer. And therefore Buddha say, if you want to think that there is suffering. There is a reason, a cause for suffering. And there is a cessation of suffering. So don't think that he encouraged suffering, but there is a cessation of suffering, and there is a path leading to the cessation of suffering. So the practice in a way help us to calm down ourselves, relax ourselves. Stop too much thinking. Stop conceptual proliferations. Even though you see things without adding too many things, okay, let me calm down myself. Don't confuse myself. So a little bit of sense restraint is also required because we can't immediately stop ourselves. So certain amount of sense restraint is a must. That's why Chakkuna Rupan Diswa na nimittak gahi, nanu byanjanang gahi. Yatvadikarana metang Chakkwindriyang asangutang viharantang Papaka kusala dhamma anvasaveyum tassa samvaraya patipajjati rakkati Chakkwindriya. So Buddha mentioned, so by seeing, don't take too many information. If you are trying to see all this information, if you are now interested too much of this, now you are going to confuse yourself. Or if you are looking at things so that previously unarisen lust is going to arise, then you are the ones going to suffer. So have some kind of a restraint. So don't look at, say, bad things. Don't hear unnecessary things so that you are going to suffer. Have some kind of a sense restraint. So that is necessary. And on the other hand, as we are practicing, so we start having a kind of a very interesting capacity. Even though we can see things, now mind has the ability to avoid getting all that information. Not that interested about things. Mind start preferring seclusion. Even those can hear things, rather than getting entangled with it, mind can live kind of alone. Even though various orders are there, the senses are still fully in operation. But mind has the capacity to avoid proliferation. Seeing is mere seeing now. Hearing becomes mere hearing. Smelling, touching, tasting become just that. And even the thought comes and it goes, but the clarity of the mind remains. So that's the beauty of the practice. Ditte dittamattam bhavissati, sute sutamattam bhavissati, mute mutamattam bhavissati, viññāte viññātamattam bhavissati. It's not that you can't see, you can see, but mind remains calm. You can hear, but the mind remains calm. You can smell, you can taste, you can touch, but mind remains unattached, unbothered, not mixing up with things, not getting entangled with your sensory perceptions. That can only be done through practice. I don't think that we can do that mere theoretical understanding. You can't even rationally think how it can going to happen. You can't do it. Someone can even challenge. But the practice, we as practitioners, you know how much this practice is helpful to achieve this. So you may reach a stage where even though you can see many things, still the mind remains calm. Even though you hear that someone is blaming you, someone is praising you, but still mind remains calm. You are not getting overwhelmed by what the others are talking. Nose same, tongue same, body same. Even the thoughts may come and go, but the clarity of the mind is intact. So you have now kind of a capacity not to get entangled with these different perceptions. Now the interesting point is this. Sanya virattassa na santi gantha. So this is another interesting statement where if you have a kind of a dispassionate attitude towards various perceptions, you are not getting any kind of a defiled entanglements within the mind. So you can keep your clarity of the mind. You can maintain a very clean mind. You can maintain a pure mind. You can maintain a very calm, relaxed, pure state of mind if you have all these skills. So then, what is the kind of perception available in that person? Now say someone achieved this, say an arahant. So what is the level of perception he is having? Is he completely mad? Without taking any perception? Can't live in this world? He can't get into a bus and now say, fortunately I don't know, now say an arahant, so he want to go to Colombo. Now he want to take a bus. Can't he use the, can't he read the, the name card in the bus? Should be possible, no? Otherwise, very unreasonable, no? So that means he should have the, the typical perceptions also he should be able to handle. So this is a very interesting statement. So one Deva, he come and ask from the Buddha, Yohoti bhikkhu arahang katavi kīnāsavo antima dehadhari. Ahang vadami tipi so vadeya mamang vadanti tipi so vadeyati. So he is asking from the Buddha, now I have heard that certain arahants, they are called arahant. I also felt that they are arahants. Yohoti bhikkhu arahang katavi kīnāsavo antima dehahari. So they are completely free from all the fetters. The asavas, the influxes, so they are completely out of that. And now they are maintaining the last life. This is their final birth. But ahang vadanmi tipi so adeya. So they are also talking that I am the one talking. Mamang vadanti tipi so adeyati. They are also referring that he talked to me. How can this happen? So how he is talking like I am talking and he talked to me? Does that mean me exist, I exist? So this is the question asked from the Buddha with respect to the arahants. Now Buddha is also using the same terminology, very interesting way how he answered in a very, some aesthetic aspect is there. Yohoti bhikkhu arahang katavi kīnāsavo antima dehadhari ahang vadanmi tipi so vadeya mamang vadanti tipi so vadeya loke samanyang kusalo viditva vohara mattena so vohareyati. So Buddha mentioned, yes, that arahang, the fully enlightened being, kīnāsavo, is completely free from all the influxes, antima dehadhari, and he is holding the final body. There is no more rebirth. Ahang vadami tipi so vadeya. So he is also referring, I am talking. Mamang vadanti tipi so vadeya. He is also referring, he talked to me. The same terminologies he is also using. As the typical mundane worldly beings who are using the same language, he is also using the same thing. How? Loke samanyam kusalo viditva. So this he know very well, this is a mere convention. Vohara mattena so vohareya. And he uses it for mere communication. That's it. He don't believe that these things are available, these things are, say, significant or substantial. But he know that these things are the convention. This is how these conventions has arisen. This is the purpose of it. So he is using it for that purpose. So if he want to talk to someone, he is using the same language. So Buddha used the same language. So in Sariputta, now you got to deliver the Dhamma sermon. I am feeling a little problem. Now in one time, say Buddha got a back pain while he is delivering the Dhamma sermon, and he invited Venerable Ananda. Venerable Ananda, now you got to continue the Dhamma sermon. Now you need to take a rest. So he has to use the name, no? So he has to talk Venerable Ananda. So all these different names are there. So he is using them. And probably he may use the same thing that I have to deliver Dhamma sermon tomorrow. So likewise, he has to use the same terminology. Otherwise, how can the others going to understand? So he is using the same terminologies, languages, but the difference is he know it is a mere terminology. He know it's a mere convention. That's it. He's not putting it to another level, but he know what its value, what its purpose. And the question that I ask, so what is then the type of perception then an arahant has? So it is explained in one interesting verse in the Kalahavivada Sutta. Na sanya sanyi, na visanya sanyi, nopi asanyi, na vibhuta sanyi. So you need to know the nyi, right? Na sanya sanyi, na visanya sanyi, nopi asanyi, na vibhuta sanyi, evang sametassa vibhuti rupang sanya nidanahi papancha sankha. So this is a very, very interesting verse. So Buddha explained the kind of the perception level an arahant has. Na sanya sanyi. So Buddha mentioned, now it's actually a kind of a negation that Buddha explained here. Na sanya sanyi. So he's not believing in the typical mundane fixed kind of perceptions that the ordinary beings have. Now say for example, now I have the perception, oh, this is a clock. So I believe this, it is there, it's a clock. So all these names I know, I remember, I recognize, I learned, all these perceptions are there. So he is not entangled with this kind of a level. So that means his mind is not continuously confused by all these different terms and names and languages and how many things are there in your head. Is your mind completely empty or filled with a lot of perceptions? Typically our mind is again and again getting all these, various signs are happening, right? Various images are happening in our mind. Now think about your own mind. Now, is your mind completely empty, like say blank A4 paper? Or various perceptions, names you recognize, okay, what I am going to do tomorrow, what I am going to eat tomorrow, how I am going to travel tomorrow. Various names are now appearing, how you are traveling, various mental images are appearing, now your mind get occupied, right? So those are the mundane, mundane terms, mundane names, perceptions, all are getting occupied. Na sanya sanyi. So the arahants doesn't have that. Na visanya sanyi. He doesn't have a disturbed kind of perceptions. Now say when someone go crazy, so he has a disturbed perception, no? So when I am telling, okay, this is blue color, he say, no, this is red color. So kind of a disturbed. So he can't understand what's going on. I mean, he is confused. Kind of a disturbed, confused kind of a perception. So Arahants doesn't have even, he is not a confused person. He's not crazy. He hasn't gone mad. Then Nopi Asanyi. That means he's not without perception. So Asanyi means completely out of perception. So Arahant is not even that. Then na vibhuta sanyi, he hasn't completely destroyed the perception, but anytime he can switch back. Anytime he can get into the mundane perception level. It's not that he completely destroyed so that his mind never can perceive the typical, the mundane terms, names and all these things. But he can quickly use that. Na vibhuta sanyi. Evan sametassa vibhuti rupang sanya nidanahi papancha sankha. So if one is able to have this kind of a mentality, this kind of a mindset. So what is the kind of a mindset? So your mind has to be very clear in a way. So you can't have various, names or labels and colors and scars and all these images every time occupying your mind. Your mind has to be fairly clean in that one sense. And it is not a disturbed kind of crazy kind of a thing either. You are not going mad. And it is not that you completely asanyi, you stop appearance of any perception. Anytime you can get anything if you want. Now vibhuta sanyi, somewhat similar. You haven't destroyed all the perceptions, but anytime you can use based on the purpose. So this is the kind of a mentality, or this is the kind of the perception level Buddha mentioned available in an arahant in a way. So we can say time to time, even Vipassana yogis may experience that not to the fullest. Say for example, if you are able to minimize sankhara, if you are able to minimize conceptual proliferation, to some extent your mind may experience this. It is not that we need to, the fullest level to the maximum capacity, the Arahant of course is the one experiencing this. But even a Vipassana yogi, time to time may reach this state, but he can't maintain for a long time. Because still the raga dosa moha operating, as a result of that again get entangled. Again skha may appear in the mind. Assume that due to your practice, you are able to have a very clean mind, say for 5 minutes. But the next moment again a skha appear in the mind. Skha in the sense your mind get occupied now. A mental image appear in the mind. And sometimes even if you are not mindful, you can get even entangled to that. You start thinking and you can go on and on. But if you are very mindful, very careful, you can recognize that image as a mental image so that it will slowly disappear. So the perceptions can come and go. It is not that you completely, say, destroyed that ability. They can operate. We can make use of it, but they are not overwhelming you. They are not taking you for a ride. So that kind of a capacity one has to develop in a way. So that capacity slowly one has to develop. And the fulfillment, we can say, is that one becomes an Arahant. So the path for that is the Noble Eightfold Path, Sila Samadhi Panya. So we need to have, in one sense restrainment, have to have fair amount of clarity in the mind, Samadhi is required, and further development of the wisdom is required so that we are able to do this again and again. So keep the mind fairly clean, undefiled, free from wrong perceptions, and so that mind is cleansed, free from raga dosa moha. So when raga dosa moha is completely destroyed, so that is the perfect form of nibbana. Ragakkayo, dosakkayo, mohakkayo is the nibbana. Okay, with that I like to conclude today's Dhamma sermon. Thank you very much for attentive listening. So at the end of the Dhamma sermon, we usually share merits. And today breakfast dana was offered by Geeta Gunathilaka. Merits to be transferred to her late parents, sister and 2 brothers to have a shorter sansaric journey. May the merits also help Bhante and yogis at Kalalgoda Meditation Center to progress in their Dhamma path towards liberation. And then today lunch dana was given by Amendra and Tusita. Merits offers to their families for good health and peace of mind. Amendra and Tusita also want to share the merits with all at Meditation Center, and thanks Bhante for his guidance and teachings. Okay, so those are the sharing of merits, and we gathered here today also and accumulated fair amount of merits by participating to Dhamma sermon and participating into the Dhamma discussion and practicing ourselves. And all the merits that we have accumulated, let's share with all the celestial beings, all the past away relatives, and whoever in need of merits. And we wish these merits help us also to cleanse our mind to attain path, fruition, nibbana. While keeping these good wishes in our mind, let's recite the traditional verses. Ettavata hehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata hehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata hehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasattha ca bummattha devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu sasanang. Akasattha ca bummattha devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu desanang. ආකාසට්ඨා ච බුම්මට්ඨා දේවා නාග මහිද්దికා පුඤ්ඤන්තං අනුමෝදිත්වා චිරං රක්ඛන්තු මම් පරං. ඉදං වෝ ඥාතිනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හොන්තු ඥාතයෝ. ඉදං වෝ ඥාතිනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හොන්තු ඥාතයෝ. ඉදං වෝ ඥාතිනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හොන්තු ඥාතයෝ. ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සමාගමෝ සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බාන පත්තියා. ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සමාගමෝ සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බාන පත්තියා. ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සමාගමෝ සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බාන පත්තියා. සාදු සාදු සාදු.